You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV. Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hey everybody, surprise! It's a bonus episode of TV Guidance Counselor here on the show TV Guidance Counselor with me, Ken Reed, your TV Guidance Counselor, your on hiatus stand-up comedian from Boston who is just sort of coming out of the pandemic, although I am skeptical about the fall. Although I did book my first travel since March of 2020 for October, so we'll see how things go. I'm sort of dipping my toe in the water of doing some in-person episodes of the show this summer with some people who are coming through town. So we shall see what comes of that. But regardless, as you know, each and every week, this is the show where I discuss classic television viewing choices of our collective past, generally using TV Guide magazines from my personal collection as the gateway into our memories. Sometimes we just chat, or I just chat with interesting people, or we just chat about television in general. And sometimes I get more than one interesting person a week to talk to me. And this is one of those weeks. This week, I have a discussion, a shorter discussion. So that's why this is a little bonus episode with the director, producer, creator of the show A Toy Store Near You, Brian Volk-Weiss, and he hosts the show as well, does little intros. If you haven't watched this show, it's on season 3, just started on Amazon Prime. Season 4 is upcoming. They go to various toy stores. It's a lot of fun. We discuss it here too, though. If COVID is something that bums you out, as it should be, but maybe skip season 1 and go right to season 2. But I still love all the episodes. Brian also is one of the people behind Toys That Made Us on Netflix and The Movies That Made Us, also on Netflix, which you've heard me talk about on this show endlessly. Really, really fun shows. I love both of those, and we'll be getting more Movies That Made Us, and those are great. If you haven't watched those, do yourself a favor. Listen to this episode first, then go and watch them, and you will feel better about at least today. And that's all you can ask for. If you have guests you would like me to try to get on the show, as always, you can email me at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com. I am also on all the social media at Kenneth W. Reed, KENNETHWREID, or at TV Guidance. It's funny, I signed up for like TikTok and whatever the new ones are, but I mostly just sign up for those so that I can get my name so that someone else doesn't take it, which sounds super pretentious, but because I don't think people are rushing to get my name on those sites, but I don't ever use them. So if there's a social media app that you like, that you would like me to use, feel free to let me know. I went on, what's the new one where you talk? I can't even remember the name. I went on there a couple times, but I couldn't. I don't know. Shoot me an email if you're like a social media guru. But anyway, if there are people you want me to try to get on the show, I will try to get them on the show. Also, once again, want to thank all our patrons, patreon.com/TV Guidance Counselor. You guys are the best. You have helped me out more than you know in the last year and a half. As you know, I'm not doing any conventions. I haven't been doing any stand-up. And those are sort of my sources of extra income that kind of fuel this show. And you guys have helped ease that pain. So thank you guys so much for doing that. I very, very much appreciate it. Anyway, enjoy this little extra episode. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're watching. Let me know how you're doing. I worry about you guys. Are you eating enough? Getting enough sleep and all that. But in the meantime, please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's extra episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, Brian Volk-Weiss.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Live via satellite, Brian Volk-Weiss, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Ken?
I'm doing good. It's a very rainy day here in Boston, but that's appropriate to our.
I was just in Boston last week.
Were you doing an episode of the show?
No, I was there for something, a tech scout for something else, unfortunately. But I did go to Newbury Comics. I went
nice.
to two of their locations.
Did you go to the original Newbury Street store?
I went to the Newbury Street store, which I'd been to a billion times. And then I went to the one near Faneuil Hall, which I had not been to before.
That's a new one that had been right in Downtown Crossing in that brutalist building at City Hall Plaza. But the Newbury Street one, Amy Mann used to work at, which is pretty exciting.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's been all kinds of like Boston music stalwarts that worked in that store. But I asked because we do have some pretty great sort of vintage and classic toy stores here in the Boston area, and
yes,
finished season 3, I think, of the Toy Store show, and so I was like, oh, maybe Boston will get in there.
We do have a show. We do have a store from Boston. It's not really Boston. It's a very close suburb of Boston, but that I do not believe will be in season 4.
Okay. I think I probably know which one it is. It's probably closer to me.
But I love Boston. I've spent a lot of time in Boston.
Oh, well, thank you. And also I apologize.
No, I loved it, man. Yeah. I loved it.
It's a strange place, but it is where I'm from, and it's the town that made me, if you will.
It's our new spinoff.
Yeah, just about me. So I've mentioned all the shows on this show often. Toys That Made Us was amazing. I love Movies That Made Us, and the new show is great as well. But it's different in that it's more fly on the wall sort of, but that seems like that may not have been the original intention because it hit right when COVID did, right?
Well, it was 100% our intention because the show was greenlit because of COVID. We never would have done that show if it wasn't for COVID. People were asking us for a long time to do something about the toy stores, and I never wanted to for a variety of reasons. But because of COVID, we greenlit it because we just really wanted to help the stores in any way that we could. And, they're our partners on the show. So any money we make, the majority of the profits is going to the stores, first of all. Second of all, what we really tried to do was get them, exposure to maybe help their online sales. And based on what we've been seeing, oddly enough, from season 3, not even that much from season 1 or season 2, but from season 3, the feedback we've been getting, we got a DM from this guy who said he quit his job of 28 years to open his own toy store because he was inspired by our show. Wow. We had another guy reach out. This was like last weekend. He was like, me and 4 buddies got in my Prius, drove 300 miles, and they went to one of the stores from season 2 and spent almost $2,000. So that's why we made the show. I mean, that was our entire intention. We didn't know if it would work or not because we shot it during COVID.
Yeah, that first season especially, there's some grim stuff in there, and I don't mean that negatively, but there's some real grim stuff for people in that first season.
Yeah, I think I overdid it in retrospect. I mean, the comments we got were they were really negative. The reaction to season 1 was pretty negative. And if you took all the comments we got and tried to summarize what they said, it was basically, yo, I'm already depressed about COVID. I was excited to have a show about toys. Then I hit play and it was all about COVID. So season 2, I'm not one of these people that's like, it's my show.
Right.
And fuck you, I'm making my show.
My vision.
Yeah. I mean, I do have a vision, but I only an idiot. Like if you have 5 people out of 100 saying something, well, then that's their problem. If you have 92 people out of 100 saying the same thing, I've probably fucked up. So but season 2 was like, it was like season 1 was like 90% COVID, 10% toys. Season 2 was like 80% toys, 20% COVID. And season 3 was like 1% COVID, 99% toys. And season 4, you heard it here first, will be 100% toys.
Yes, we've reached total toy saturation.
That's right.
For that season 4. But it was fascinating because that season 1 was the first show I remember watching that acknowledged COVID. That wasn't the news, and the sort of impacts. And it was fascinating to me because, I mean, you can see my background. Obviously, this is something of interest. It looks like I live in a toy store. But a lot of people sort of regressed isn't the right word, but sort of cocooned in those sort of nostalgic childhood things when COVID started, when they were in their house. So,
right.
They were going to eBay, they were buying all the things they wanted as a kid, or they had as a kid and didn't have anymore, eating the things. So in some ways, I imagine, to your point, that really did help those businesses because people could go, I didn't know I could buy that again.
It did. That was, I would say that's 49% of what happened. 51% was, if you talk to any of the toy stores before August, most of them thought they were going to go out of business. In fact, the whole reason we did the show was, I was talking to Kyle from Cat Collectibles in Burbank right before the quarantine started.
On Magnolia.
That's right.
I love that street.
Good for you. Good for you. You know your stores. So I was talking to him and I said to him, I go, and, I was talking to him on like a Tuesday or something. And we knew on Friday the quarantine was starting. And I said to him, I go, what happens to you during a quarantine? And he goes, well, I think all of our income goes to zero, but our expenses stay the same. Mm-hmm. And that was literally the thing I heard that made me want to greenlight the show. But by August, a lot of the stores were saying they were having the best year in the history of the store. And what I think happened, and this is just a guess, but what I think happened is, I think a lot of the public thought they were going to get fired or take a pay cut, so they stopped spending money. That was in like February, March, April, May. Then by August, they basically were getting secure that they weren't going to get fired. They weren't going to take a pay cut. But on top of that, they didn't take a family trip to Disneyland. They hadn't been going to fancy dinners once a week. So people started looking at their bank accounts in August and were like, where's all this money from?
We got a stimulus check and, hey, we're trapped in the house. Maybe we'll buy some old board games.
Exactly.
Because sadly, Rocket Fizz on Magnolia was a casualty of the COVID shutdown, which is a soda store that I love. But the other side of it, too, that I noticed in the show is there are some people who are going into the business during COVID. And to your point, the guy that contacted you recently, I think a lot of people sort of reassessed what they were doing with their lives because we had this, death staring us in the face for a year and a half. And went, I'm tired of this, whatever 9-to-5 grind work for someone else. Let's do what we want and, open a toy store.
We all got the message at the same time. Life is short.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's okay to look back at the things we liked when we were a kid. We don't need to move on from them necessarily because life is short.
Right. That's exactly right.
You grew up in New York?
Yeah, in Queens.
Okay, in Queens. What was your toy store?
It was Nick's. It was Nick's comic book shop on Askin Avenue and Austin Street. And they were right on the corner. And it was like 98% comics, 2% toys. Most of my toys were, Toys R Us or KayBee.
Yeah. I mean, the KayBee closeout clearance bins was my just heaven. All the weird B and C toy lines that were the weird. Actually, I think I have a food fighter right here.
Nice.
Those were all the things that they were like $1, and my parents didn't have a lot of money, so it was like, yeah, you can get 5 things from the closeout bin. Just weird.
We had similar childhoods.
Is there a toy line that, or have you thought of doing toys that made us of like just weird toys, like those little remembered ones?
if we get the chance, I'd love to wrap up the whole series with an episode called "The Toys That Should Have Not Been Made," and the spinal column of that episode would be LJN's Dune.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Didn't LJN also do that weird Freddy Krueger Max FX toy where it was like a guy you could dress up as Freddy Krueger? It was supposed to be a special effects.
I know the toy. I'm not sure if I think it was LJN, but I'm not positive. But I'm definitely familiar with that. That's in a season 1 episode of Toy Store Near You.
I love that thing. And then LJN also did good Gremlins toys. But Dune.
Yes, they did.
So that also speaks to, my show's mostly about television, but so many of the toys from when we grew up were based on television or vice versa. I mean, most of the cartoons existed to sell us the toys, but we also got a lot of weird toys for like primetime adult shows. Like there are A-Team toys. There were toys for the show V.
Oh, one of my favorite things I have in my collection, which I actually got at Toy du Jour, one of the stores
Chicago?
from season 3, Dallas.
Dallas, okay.
Oh, dude, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Toy du Jour is in Chicago.
I've been to that.
I got it from Jaden's Toys in Dallas. You're absolutely right. But no, I got this. It's this A-Team like minivan / helicopter. Yeah.
It's such a weird thing. Like we definitely didn't have that in the 90s, although I guess there were Baywatch Barbies. But I can't imagine like a primetime show now having a toy line. Can you think of any show that would have a toy line?
Not really. Not really, no. But like I have a Street Hawk motorcycle.
Oh, nice.
Like MOC. Like who greenlights that? Like the amount of work that goes into releasing a toy. Like they shot 13 episodes. They aired, I think, 9. Like, yeah, just like you. I have an MOC Automan that is, again, to me, part of the reason I collect these things is I admire the confidence it took to release a toy that clearly was not probably good for that year's quarter.
Well, it's fascinating too, and you would think that the business things behind these things would be boring, or most people would be like, crunching numbers. But the thing that was the most fascinating stuff about the toys that made us. And I also had a soft spot because so much of it was Hasbro, and just hearing like old Rhode Island guys be like, I don't fucking know, whatever, is hilarious to me. But the time it took to make a toy, and what shows are coming out in September, they got to put all their eggs into a certain amount of baskets and just kind of hope and pray that thing is not going to end up in the KayBee clearance bin, even though 90% of it does.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right. That's the model. It's very risky.
And I love lunchboxes for that reason, because that was sort of that was the mark of Cain for kids. I don't know if that's the right word I want to use, where your parents bought you a lunchbox for like Gravedale High that was canceled after October, and now you get it for the whole year.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, no, by the way, I mean, something going on right now, like the new Dune movie, McFarlane got destroyed because of COVID, because the movie's coming out like 15 months after the toys. Yep. Same thing happened with Wonder Woman 2. So like, or 1984. So like, that'll be a doc we make in 5 years, maybe.
Is there a toy or that you've still wanted, or something that from when you were a kid that you just haven't been able to get a hold of?
There were a lot. I've basically got the list down to one thing. There's only one thing left that from when I was a kid. Like, I always wanted the COBRA Hydrofoil.
Of course.
I always wanted the G.I. Joe whale. I never had those. Now I do. So the only thing really left like that was Mego's bridge from Star Trek The Motion Picture. That's the only thing. There's still stuff like I want Vlix. I want an MOC Vlix. But like, I didn't know what Vlix was when I was a kid. Right. So only that bridge is outstanding.
Is there a TV show you watched as a kid that we didn't get toys for that you would like to have seen?
Ooh, good question. That's a great question. I mean, it's funny. We got some toys technically for Knight Rider and some toys technically for MacGyver, but I never saw them.
They were like repaint rack toys.
Yeah,
they weren't like super.
I wish those shows could have gotten like the Star Wars treatment. But you know what? I got a good one. I'm so glad I thought of this, because this is the kind of question I'll think of an answer later and be mad at myself that I didn't think of it fast enough. Quantum Leap.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you could.
I would have loved Quantum Leap figures,
like a face-changing toy, and you could have.
Cool. all of that came with a mirror. But that would have been awesome.
It's strange because I could see that being a thing now, but to me, and this may be me being somewhat cynical, all toys now feel like they're for adults.
To a certain degree, yeah, you're right.
And I remember when Toys R Us was still around, they had a whole section that was labeled for the adult collector. But it was the coolest stuff.
That line is definitely blurred. I have 3 kids, and I can guarantee you that's accurate.
Do your kids still play with toys?
My boys do. My daughter does not. My daughter's all about YouTube. And, well, you know what? My daughter does play with Calico Critters.
Okay.
So she likes that. But other than that, it's almost entirely YouTube and drawing.
Because that was going to be my other question, where, even movies that made us, obviously they sort of hinge on to get people interested on the nostalgia piece and that sort of shared experience. And also the inaccessibility of information in the pre-internet age that we grew up in. But as we go forward, like people that grew up, post-millennium, what will their version of that be? Will there be one?
All I can guarantee you is it will blindside everybody, because the stuff that's hot right now, most of it was in the bins. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why it's so expensive, because the majority of it was either thrown out by the public or the stores.
Yeah. Or even those people that collect like the bootleg ripoffs, or like the really weird bootleggy knockoff toys. That's a whole thing. Well, those sell for a ton because they're so hard to find now.
I'm embarrassed to admit I've been bitten by that bug. I have a Polish bootleg Han Solo in Hoth attire that looks like it was painted by a 2-year-old.
It's kind of amazing, though. And that's the other thing that I feel like as a kid, toys were the first thing that made me realize international commerce was a thing to a degree, because we had a legendary toy store here called Mr. Big's Toyland. And it was on Moody Street in Waltham, and it was the first store in America to import Transformers, but before they were Transformers, when they were all the different lines.
Yeah, Takara.
And they were discount. Like, the guy got them for nothing. And his main thing was he was selling Star Blazers toys and Shogun Warriors, like he would get these Japanese stuff, and they aired here on syndication, and all the ads would be for this toy store. So you were like, if you want these toys of stores from, move things from Japan, this is the only place that has it. And it made me realize that, like, oh yeah, if the show's from there, then the toys would have to be from there too. And it made me go, there's probably all kinds of toys in other countries for other shows. Maybe there's Danger Mouse toys or something. And
probably.
But you can get those now. Like, you didn't have to go to Poland to get that Han Solo.
I did not. I got it in a little city called Chicago.
So, I mean, in that respect, things are better, although it probably isn't as exciting as if you had found it in Poland.
Yeah, I mean, it's still exciting when it shows up. I ordered this Ahsoka Tano statue over a year ago. I forgot about it. I completely forgot about it. I got back from Boston last Friday, and I opened the box, and there it was. Yeah. in a good mood, a great mood for the next hour.
It's like Christmas every day. Just getting mail is kind of great. Is there too much mail? Is I mean, look at me. Is there, because a lot of the stories behind these things, and even some of the stores, are just unbelievable. Like the one that I always think of is the He-Man Battle Cat, like put a fucking saddle on it story. Was there anything that you were told in doing these shows that you were like, I know this is a true story, but this is too out there, we can't even include this? No one, people would be like, what?
Yes, absolutely. But the majority of things like that we didn't use were, for lack of a better expression, they were mean.
I see.
Like, it's very important to me that the shows we produce are happy. Even if we're covering dark things, I still want to do it in a way that doesn't depress people, or I want people to watch what we make. And when it's, maybe they feel crappy in the middle during some dark stuff, but when it's over, they're happy and they feel some joy in their stomachs. So, like in the Barbie episode, Jill Barad is in the episode quite a bit. And a lot of people didn't like her that worked with her. And and I put a little bit of that in the episode, but people really just hated her and were just mean. Yeah. Like just really mean, like going out of their way to be mean. And we interviewed enough people that it was probably true what they were saying, but I just didn't want to put it in the show because, like I said, it's in the show. We did make it clear, like she wasn't winning any popularity contests, right. But I didn't need to show her former colleagues with their hands shaking in rage, talking about something she said at a staff meeting 30 years earlier.
Right. It was more for them to work out some shit.
Yeah. So that's where I kind of drew the line. But other than that, we really kind of, we kind of used everything we got.
Did you run into anything where years ago I was like, I'm going to write a book about Boston's Combat Zone, which is like where our 42nd Street kind of Times Square type thing. And talking to a lot of those guys, it was a lot of like, what the hell you want to know about that for? Like, did you encounter that at all? Because a lot of these people, it's just their office gig from 40 years ago, and it's a cool one, but were they like, wow, well, what the hell do you care about that?
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, one of my secret tricks, which obviously is not a secret, is I always go looking for the lawyers, because what I know because of my job, the lawyers are sort of the only people at a company that to a certain extent see everything. So that lawyer, Jim Kipling from the Star Wars episode, I mean, he exactly what you just said. He was like, what? Why do you want to talk to me? And that was the best information we got from anybody. His interview literally became the spinal column of the episode. But yeah, he was like, how did you even find me?
Were there documentaries or really anything that were the most influential on the structure of the show? Because it's not structured like any documentary I've seen.
Yeah. The only thing that other documentaries did that affected our structure was, I'm a huge documentary fan since like college. Like I would go to the movie theaters before Netflix to see documentaries at least once a month. One of my pet peeves was I noticed a lot of documentaries that were about fun topics, like treated them like the rise and fall of the Third Reich or something. Right. Like, why are you doing a show about toys and using this dark, depressing horror movie music? Like, so that was something I was very adamant about when Toys was greenlit, that it be fun. And then, our lead editor, who's also a producer on the show, Ben Frost, he has a comedy background. Robin Henry, who ran season 3 of Toys, season 1 of movies, like she has a comedy background. She was a stand-up comedian. So, and my background, I was never a stand-up comic,
You're
but
lucky.
my background is in stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Same.
So that's like, we didn't set out to do something different. We didn't set out to change the game or some other bullshit like that. I just hired the people I liked. And by coincidence, they just all had a comedy background.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense in that, having done stand-up for a long time myself, where stand-ups, when they're good, can take dark topics and make them fun, and also know structure well, which is the sort of key to those sorts of things. So now that you say that, that makes perfect sense to me, although it hadn't occurred to me previously. Well, I know you got to go, but so season 3 is out and people can watch it now. Do you have a vague timeline for when season 4 is out?
Late Q4, but this year.
Okay. Oh, great. And then anything else on the horizon you can mention? Anything we'll get documentaries about?
We have 2 shows coming out this month. We have another season of Movies That Made Us on Netflix. And we have a new show on Disney Plus that we did with Dwayne Johnson and $7, his company, called Behind the Attraction. That's on Disney Plus. That comes out in about 2 weeks. And then we have a show on History Channel in September, which is a series. I believe it to be the biggest, deepest dive ever into Star Trek. It's called The Center Seat, 55 Years of Star Trek.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. Well, I will be on the lookout for all those. Thank you so much for talking to me today. And again, I loved everything you've done. So
you're very kind, man. Probably too kind.
Except for this one thing, and I have some notes for you.
Oh, I know that thing. It's probably on Animal Planet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take it easy.
There you go. That's Brian. Good dude, fascinating dude, done some amazing stuff. Watch Toy Store Near You, Toys That Made Us, Movies That Made Us. Look out for all the new stuff. You will love it. I guarantee. Who is that guy? Was that Jacques Pepin who did I Guarantee? I don't remember now. My dad used to watch him. Yeah, I'm right. You know what I'm doing right now? This is called rambling. That's what we call rambling in the business. But I'm very good at it. So, as I said, I'll be traveling in the fall at a minimum. So we'll see where the future brings us. Now that I'm 41 years old and old, hopefully they let me get on the plane. I'm not too old. Anyway, what the hell am I talking about? I don't even know. So we'll be here next week for a brand new edition. So I'll see you then for that brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
Yo, I'm already depressed about COVID. I was excited to have a show about toys. Then I hit play and it was all about COVID.